Ready to go. I'd like to call this meeting to order, regular meeting council agenda, Tuesday, March 31st, 2020 at 7 p.m. And are we doing the national anthem? We are doing the national anthem, so please rise, take your hats off, everybody, for the national anthem. Hats off. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of interest, general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. And the first staff report, admin ASR 11-2020, the amendment to procedure bylaw number 58, 2019 to enable electronic meetings during the COVID pandemic. Mr. Colosso, can you provide a brief on that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The first report before you is to propose changes to the council's procedure bylaw in order to allow electronic participation in meetings during times of emergency. Our current procedure bylaw does not have those provisions, and it was just recently that the province enacted amendments to the Municipal Act in an emergency situation that allow people or members of council who are electronically participating in meetings to be recognized as part of the quorum for the meeting, which previously did not exist under law. So what we are proposing at this time is an amendment to our procedure bylaw to allow electronic participation and to allow those members electronically participating to become counted towards quorum, so that future meetings we do not need to have a minimum of 3 members of council in attendance. Because of the situation that we have today, we do have 3 members here today: Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Gibson, or Mayor Gibson, and Councillor McClellan. And we actually have online participating electronically Councillors Cridland and Councillor Wainfleet. I would like to point out that Councillor Cridland and Wainfleet, although not here at the meeting today, it's not because they're ill or they're showing any symptoms or anything along those lines. It's simply a matter of social distancing. It's simply a matter of them trying to, I guess, recognize the letter of the law with respect to assemblies that the province passed this last weekend. And they are actually doing us a favor by zooming into the meeting electronically as opposed to being here in person. Again, they're not ill, they're not showing any symptoms, they're simply attempting to do the social distancing that the province is attempting to get all of us to do. So at this stage, if council is supportive of making the amendments, what we can do is adopt the recommendation contained in the report, and then immediately thereafter, the council can vote on the bylaw that will make the amendment to the procedure bylaw so that the rest of the meeting, Councillor Cridlin and Councillor Wainfleet, can participate electronically, forming part of the quorum. One thing about electronic participation in meetings is that procedurally, every vote will need to be a recorded vote where each member of council specifically identifies whether they are in favor or opposed to each resolution or each motion that is put before you, just so that the official record and the documentation available to the public afterwards will demonstrate how each individual member voted.
Okay, thank you, Will. So the Administrative Staff Report ASR 11/2020, respecting amendment to procedure bylaw to enable electronic participation during the COVID-19 pandemic be received, and that bylaw number 58/2019 be amended to permit electronic meetings during a declared emergency. I have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Gilmore, seconded by Councillor McClellan. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll record vote. Councillor Gilmore, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
Councillor Wainfleet?
In favor.
Councillor Cridlin?
In favor.
Okay, and I'm in favor. That is passed. Okay, we move on to
The actual bylaw itself, and that is bylaw number 2016 or 16-2020, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 58-2019, being a bylaw to govern the proceedings of the Township of Wainfleet Council, the conduct of its members, and the calling of its meetings. And the motion or the recommendation is that it be read and passed this 31st day of March 2020. And we would need a recorded vote on that, please.
and move it, place it on the floor for discussion. Mover, seconder, Councillor McClellan, Councillor Gilmore, and that is on the floor for any discussion. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Okay, Councillor McClellan.
To you, Will, is how long does this stay in effect? Is there a timeline on it, just so we're clear? And can 4 of us do this electronically and have one, like, just so we all know kind of what the rules are, right? So the public's gonna want to ask, so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the amendments made to the Municipal Act about counting non-present persons who electronically call in. The changes in the Municipal Act talk about that happening during times of a declared emergency at either the provincial, the regional, or the local level. So that's when you can count towards quorum. And that's what our bylaw is proposed to implement. And it's as long as the emergency is in effect. So as of right now, I think the province just recently announced that they're extending the emergency call, if you will, until middle of April. I think April 16th is the most current date. So this will remain in effect until that time. As to whether or not you'll be able to hold a meeting, yes, the answer is yes, you will. As long as all the members, or we get a quorum of the members who can electronically call in, then it counts towards the meeting and you can actually have the meeting from a remote location.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Okay, recorded vote. I'll go to Councillor Cridlin, opposed or in favor?
In favor?
Councillor Wainfleet, opposed or in favor?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're at Mayor's remarks. Please note our meeting today is not being broadcast live. However, we are recording and we'll share it to our website afterwards. All township facilities remain closed to the public due to COVID-19, and we continue to take the necessary precautions for everyone's protection. Additionally, all parks, playground facilities, and most recently our beaches have been closed to the public in a further effort to flatten the curve. Please step up and stay home. You can check the COVID-19 page on our township website. It is updated regularly when we have new information to share. And virtually our communications expert lead is putting updates on. Our next regular council meeting of council is scheduled for Tuesday, April 21st at 7 p.m. And both the Police Services Board and Regional Council will meet Thursday, April 23rd, 8:30, 6:30 respectively. And those meetings now are beginning to be done electronically as well. So I've already done one on the police board electronically and it worked fairly well. So, and the regional one we did last week was half and half attendance, half electronic. So that's going to be the new norm for a while. Are there any comments by any councillors in regards to any activities? Okay, seeing none. Reviewing of the previous minutes. You've had a chance to look at the minutes, please. A motion to put that on the floor for approval. We'll do them both at the same time. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. Any discussion on the minutes, omissions or errors? Okay, seeing none, we'll do the recorded vote on this. So we'll start with Councillor Van Vliet. Opposed or in favor?
In favor.
Councillor Creelan?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
And that is carried. Delegations, we don't have any delegations this evening. So we move on to staff reports and recommendations. And the first one that we're going to deal with is the cancellation, reduction, or refund of property tax for 2019 taxation year. Mr. Colossi, would you like to provide an overview, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first of two staff reports that you'll be dealing with this evening. They're basically housekeeping reports dealing with applications that the township received late last fall, requesting that taxes associated with certain properties be reduced. The rationale or the reason the application was made relates to the Halloween storm that we experienced in Wainfleet, where some houses were damaged. The applicants made application through the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation for a reduction due to the damages associated with their property. And MPAC had gone out, done an assessment, and come back with a recommended a change to their property assessment for the final 2 months of the year, October 31st through December 31st. And for that reason, it's staff's recommendation that the taxes be reduced accordingly.
Okay, so the recommendation, administrative staff report ASR 007-2020, respecting cancellation, reduction, and refund of property tax be received, that council approve application 2019-08 pursuant to section 357 of the Municipal Act 2001, numbered 2019-08, to write off the taxes in the amount of $122.13. A mover and a seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. Thank you. Yeah. Any discussion? Questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a recorded vote. Councillor Van Vliet?
In favor.
Sorry?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Creelan?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
And that is passed. Okay, move on to the same thing, ASR 008-2020, cancellation or reduction of property tax for the 2019 taxation year. And Mr. Colossi, would you like to provide a brief overview of this one, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, basically the same situation as the prior report. The damages to this property were not as significant as the first property, so the reduction being proposed through MPAC is a little bit smaller, but nonetheless, it is the right thing to do based on the situation.
Okay, so the recommendation is that admin staff report ASR 008-2020, respecting cancellation, reduction, and refund property tax be received, and that council approve application number 2019-09 pursuant to section 357 of the Municipal Act 2001, number 2019-09, to write off taxes in the amount of $45.68. A mover and seconder to put that on the floor, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan, and any discussion? Okay, seeing none, have a recorded vote. Councillor Cridlin,
In favor?
Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor McClellan,
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore,
In favor.
and that is carried. Move on to ASR 009-2020. And again, I'll look to Mr. Colossus to provide an overview of that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This report is being presented to council for your consideration in light of the declared provincial emergency regarding the COVID coronavirus pandemic that we're currently all dealing with. Presently, with the situation that's occurring across the province, across North America, across the world, we're finding that there's a real potential for the ratepayers and the taxpayers in Wainfleet to be in difficult financial times as a result of changes to workplaces, closing down of non-essential businesses, and general orders to stay home. In light of that, it's incumbent on the township to respond to and to recognize the need of our constituents. And what is being proposed to sort of help provide some relief to the property taxpayers is that we defer the due date on our next round of taxes, which are currently due on April 30th. And what we're proposing is that as of today's date, we defer that for a period of 2 months to June 30th to give some additional time for the situation to play itself out. Part of the rationale for that deferral is that we as a township we play tax collector for both the school board and for the region of Niagara. And we do have amounts that we have previously paid to them as a result of the February installment of taxes that we received. In total, we paid close to $2 million to those two bodies already this year. And we actually technically had another $2 million that is to be paid within the very near future. The province has done its part and has indicated to us that they do not need to receive their payment on time and have provided us additional time to make our transfer to them. The region presently is, I think, in the midst of considering whether they will hold off on their requisition from us. But if they do not, then we will owe them $1.5 million in the middle of May. That said, we're confident that deferring our due date will give our residents an opportunity to at least have a bit of a relief in this situation. So at this time, staff are recommending that the April 30th due date be deferred to June 30th, 2020.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation of admin staff report ASR 009-2020 be received, that the interim tax levy installment due date of April 30th, 2020 be deferred to June the 30th, 2020, and that bylaw 078-2019, being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2020 for the Township of Wainfleet, be amended to reflect the deferment from April 30th, 2020 to June 30th, 2020, and that the regional municipality of Niagara be requested to defer their payment requirements by 2 months to align with the change in installment dates. And a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. Is that on the floor now, and is there any discussion? Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Gloucester. The region doesn't give us an extension. Are we financially well off enough to make this payment without us missing payroll or anything else that we have to do?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It truly is a cash flow matter. We are, as staff, confident that we will be able to, with monies we have in the bank, with the province having already deferred their next payment, that we will be able to accommodate both our ongoing costs and making that payment to the region if we have to. At the same time, it would be our hope that even though we are deferring the due date, if there are members of the public who are in a position where they can pay during the normal sort of time frame for paying that was originally billed, if you will, we'd encourage them, if they can afford to pay it as soon as you can, because again, that money is a sort of flow through for us. So the bottom line answer is yes, we're confident we're okay. But again, we encourage everyone, even though we're giving this relief, if you can make those payments earlier than June, we very much like to keep that cash flow situation going.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor McCall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again to Mr. Blessett. If you do not pay and you take till June 30th, is there interest on the money owed? So that's all, there's no interest on that. It's
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the amount that everyone had their tax bills mailed to them end of January, beginning of February. And that second installment, which is due at the end of April, if the bylaw goes through immediately after we consider this report, then they can wait until June. There's no penalty, there's no interest, and they have that additional time to pay without any penalty accruing.
Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. My question to you, Will, is what are the mechanics for people that are paying monthly?
That's my question.
First of all, are they going to defer their April, May, and June payments because they come out on the 15th? And would they have to report to the township that they want to defer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So any pre-authorized checks that we have in our possession that are post-dated to April 30th, we will automatically hold until the end of June. So that there's nothing that anyone needs to do there. We will automatically hold. We will respond to requests from the public for the people who are on the monthly payments. If they want to hold off on those, we'll make those arrangements, and the best thing they can do is get in touch with us, give us a call, and we will pull them off or make the necessary changes. But a lot of those sort of arrangements need to be done on a case-by-case basis, because some of those payments people have already set aside and they're in good shape, and we just don't know that they want to hold off. But for the ones that need to, give us a call at Town Hall if the bylaw goes through, and we can make those necessary changes.
Okay, Councilor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Will. What about people who pay their taxes through their mortgage through any bank? Do they contact the bank? Do they contact you guys? How does that work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We will provide notice to the mortgage companies of the change of date. But a lot of those mortgage companies have things already pre-programmed and all set to go. So it would be a matter of the property owner touching bases with their bank, making sure the bank is aware, and following up with us that way. Otherwise, there is a chance those regular payments will go through.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Crittenden.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to our CAO. It all sounds very consistent and very resident driven, which is great because, again, you stress that this is on an as needed basis. So we are providing it for those that are going to have to perhaps have flexibility. But to be consistent, I think maybe, the fact that if people need it, they will go to the proper sources. So I was just thinking when you mentioned about the post-dated checks, I think I would put them also in the batch of we will wait to hear from anybody there also that would then like them held. So the message is consistent for everybody, that if you can pay, please continue to help us with our cash flow and meeting all of our obligations. And if you do need to, we are right here ready to extend and have the bylaw, if it passes, ready to meet those needs for the next 60 days. So if there's a little flexibility in that, or if it makes sense, maybe you could just talk to that and see if is possible from an operational side.
Thank you, Councilor Chris. So to sum up, we're deferring if it goes through to June 30th. People who want to defer to June 30th need to get a hold of us. It's not automatic. Is that what I was hearing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, people who have already left us post-dated checks with a due date of April 30th, our original plan was to automatically hold those off because those are paper checks that we actually have in our possession. Any electronically related payments that we have that come to us, that are, I guess, pushed to us from external sources, such as the banks, they actually push those payments to us as opposed to us sort of pulling. So for those push sources, the intention was we have to get that from the other side. We need to hear that from them. So that includes the monthly payment people, any sort of mortgage company related stuff. We'd like to hear from them if they want us to not receive the stuff.
So if somebody is looking to defer for that 2 months and they're doing it through their bank, they would need to go to their bank and ask for those payments to be deferred for 2 months, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's the best thing to do. Any person who has made arrangements with their bank to make those payments should deal with the bank directly. Again, we will do notification of the banks that we have on our file so that they know. But for the people, the best thing they could do is notify their bank of that if they want that stopped.
Thank you. And for the public, it's great for your township. If you have that money ready to pay your tax installment, it's great to come in, well, not obviously come in, but do it electronically, do it through your bank. If you can make your payment as per your normal time, April 30th, we would appreciate that because it would just help us with cash flow to make sure that we do have enough, just that little extra. So secondly, I know lots of people budget it throughout the year and it's nice to stay consistent and keep it going. So if you're able to, we would appreciate it. If not, then you need to contact us, contact your bank, make alternate arrangements to June the 30th. So any other questions on that? Councilor Gilmore.
I'm just going to pick up further on what Councilor Cridlin was asking for. I'm not sure we addressed it. To me, I think the onus needs to be on the taxpayer in all situations. I'm not sure that it's right to automatically hold post-dated checks if people don't want that done. So what I heard her say, and you can weigh in after, is that if we're going to provide consistency, everybody needs to make a notification if they want to defer their payment, regardless of the method. So that's the only change that I think maybe we should think about, is making it mandatory that if you want to defer your payment, regardless of how you do it, you have to notify the office so that we have a record of who did what. Because people that have issued you post-dated checks probably are okay if they go through, and they may not be happy if they don't, because I find it annoying when I issue a check and somebody doesn't cash it for a while, and then all of a sudden they cash it 2 months later, and I got to remind myself what I wrote that for. So maybe Donna wants to just reiterate if I heard her right, but I think I heard her right.
Thank you. And Councilor Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, that's a great summary. And again, if it's not operationally, if that's not an operational challenge, I think for me that's consistent. So we don't know how you pay us individually, but you know that. And please, we have a facility for anybody that needs to, but we prefer everybody, if they can, to continue to pay. So it's exactly what Councillor Gilmore summarized. Thank you, Councillor, and for us to consider.
Okay, the only issue that I'm going to speak to on this is human nature being what it is. It's going to go out there to the public that, oh, we got a 2 months deferral. You don't have to pay your taxes for 2 months. I'm not saying I agree with what we've talked about. I think that's the proper way. But people are going to say, oh, we've got a deferral for 2 months, and then nothing's going to happen. And on June the 30th, they'll come in, or the taxes will get paid. So just, I think that we need to be aware of that, human nature being what it is. Not everybody's going to read the fine print and know that they need to contact their bank or contact us. So, and in that situation there, you know, there's not going to be penalties or anything anyways. Am I correct on that? So, yeah, just so we're aware of that, that's very likely going to happen. Public.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, based on the conversation that I heard from Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Cridland, again, staff are at your direction. If you would like us to proceed with a sort of active on the part of the taxpayer to notify us if they want to hold or defer their sort of post-dated checks, we can certainly do that. All I just need is sort of a show of hands or confirmation from members of the council that you're good with that.
Okay, discussion on that, Councilor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe what we should do is put it on the town website, that if you can pay your taxes, pay them on time. If you have a problem, contact the town, and you can get up to 60 days deferral. And, you know, if you have the money, pay your taxes, right? And if you don't, you're not making any money on the bank anyway for 60 days on a little bit of taxes. So, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right approach. Any other discussion?
No, that's perfect.
Councilor agrees, that likes that?
Pardon?
Was that you that said that's perfect, or was that?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. People can call and let us know what they want to do rather than us doing it for them. Yeah.
Very good. Through you, Mr. Mayor. In that case, that's the direction we'll take. I think we still need to pass that bylaw deferring the due date until end of June so that it's clear, and we will rely on the public to get in touch with us if they want any payments stopped or if they want any things held until after that new due date.
Okay, and we should also do a media release on this with all the details and promote it so the public has knowledge on that as much as possible.
We will certainly do that electronically, if we can, by paper media, as I say, some direct contact where we can, particularly with the big banks that have multiple clients that they deal for. So by all means, we will be doing all of that.
Okay, any other discussion? Councilor Gilmore?
Just one thing, through your mayor. So, should we put that wording in the bylaw? Because now I'm concerned with the mayor's comment that, well, it just says it's deferred, but it doesn't say in there that we have to contact anybody. So I don't know whether it tightens it up better if it's actually in there that, yes, a deferral is available, providing that the resident contact the township and request it.
Yeah.
Rather than have it, you know, loosey-goosey, oh, I read this, and oh, I forgot to call. Well, at least it said in the bylaw that you needed to call.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It probably doesn't belong in the bylaw, but it certainly belongs in the resolution or the motion that you're going to pass before the bylaw is introduced. The bylaw is very specific under the Municipal Act. It contains exactly the elements regarding due dates. I think the payment methods belong in the resolution, and we can certainly add that clause right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just have one more question around the whole tax situation for you, Will. So the increase that was passed when we passed the budget, is that applied to this first payment, or does it get applied in the final two installments of the rest of this year and next year? Well, I guess it's all this year. What are the dates and when does the increase get applied? Can you just flesh that out for me?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will try to. The way the tax system works in Ontario is that taxes are paid for a given calendar year. The first two installments are called the interim tax bill, and they are issued prior to any budget, prior to any knowledge of what the entire taxes are going to be due for the year. And that interim tax bill consists of 50% of the prior year's taxes. There's nothing special, there's no forecasting or anything that's done. The first two tax bills that you receive due generally end of February, end of April, which is now being deferred to June, represent 50% of last year's taxes. Once we have a budget set, we send out a final tax bill which has the two further installments, usually one at the end of July and one at the end of September. And that final tax bill, we do the calculation of the total tax levy requirement for the township and what each person's total taxes are for the year. And then we subtract the interim tax that has already been billed. So it's only the final tax bill that reflects the sort of adjustment or increase or change to the person resulting from the budgets of the town, resulting from the budgets of the school board, and resulting from the budgets of the region. So it's not really until the final tax bill is issued that the impact of the budgetary changes come to play. I hope I explain that. It's a complex situation, but hopefully I was able to explain that.
So, yeah, so in layman's terms, the increase in dollar amount is really added onto the third and fourth installment of the given year.
Correct.
It has no bearing on the amount that would have been due on April 30 and or is going to potentially be paid on June 30.
That's correct.
That's
And hopefully by that time we're through this, and things are better, so, yeah, for me.
It will be, I'm just about done, but the one other point I'd like to make is that if we aren't through this, and if things continue to drag on, there's nothing stopping from council from revisiting this matter again prior to June 30th. Again, in the situation that the pandemic is still ongoing.
Okay, so we'll just go, Councilor McClung.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, to William, you hit on what I was thinking, because we're gonna have a bill due June 30th, and then the next one's due July 30th, and it's gonna be bigger. So I'm gonna expect somebody's gonna come knocking on our door asking us to do this and maybe make it instead of July into the end of August and instead of September into October, because if you're off, you could easily be off a month of work or better right now. And, you know, if you lose a month's wages, it takes a while to catch up.
Yeah. I think one of the key points here is definitely, you know, consideration for the taxpayers, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, in my mind, if we have to make a few adjustments throughout the year to make it easier for people, we should do that, because that's our job as representing the citizens. And, you know, you don't want to pay it on June the 30th and have another one due like 4 weeks later. So if we have to make adjustments as we go forward, and one of the key points I've been saying on everything we've done on the pandemic is just because we're saying it today doesn't mean it's valid tomorrow, because it changes so fast here. So, but it's really important that we make it so that the residents can manage the best they can manage. So, Mr. Kloss.
One other point regarding those final tax due dates. Again, in a typical year, I think I said July and September. The final tax bills, before they're issued, we will be coming back to council. We are awaiting tax policy from the region. We are waiting about information of them deferring our payments to them. So we will be coming to you before that final billing goes out And we will be very likely, just because this payment is being deferred, also be pushing back those second final billings. Usually again, July and September, those will be pushed back obviously as well, because we will try to accommodate people based on the ongoing situation.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Councilor Cridley.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. And again, thank you, Will. I'm just going to touch on again the timing. You know, for people that may have it on their bank accounts, it may not time out the way that Will is. Well, it will be different because they'll go to the bank and the bank will make the adjustment. So it doesn't maybe bump up at the same time as it might for somebody paying them either in person or electronically. So we don't have control over how the bank will collect it, but they'll certainly get notice of it, I imagine, Will, and you can correct me on that if I have that wrong. And I think the other message, I think, which is what I'm hearing, is we're all trying to do what we can, and we'll be making sure that if we see other spots, like you've already said, Will, you know, you're going to come back to us if you start to see other pressure points that we haven't anticipated. I think we're great getting in front of this now with something we have researched and we see we can do, even not conditional on the region, I think is remarkable for our residents. So I'm just waiting to see what that slight amendment is that we sort of talked about now. And then I'm happy to vote on supporting this fully. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Is that loud enough now, Linda? You can hear that better? I was talking too quietly there for a bit. Okay, so I will, if there's no other questions, I'll read ASR 09-2020, property tax relief for COVID-19 pandemic. That admin staff report ASR 009-2020 be received. That the interim tax levy installment due date of April 30th, 2020 be deferred to June 30th, 2020. That bylaw 078-2019 being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2020 for the Township of Wainfleet be amended to reflect the deferment from April 30th, 2020 to June 30th, 2020. And that any person having pre-authorized payments scheduled to occur prior to April 30th contact the township to make arrangements to take advantage of the deferral. And that the regional municipality of Niagara be requested to defer their payment requirements by 2 months to align with the charge for change in installment date. Okay, and so we've already moved that, Will? Move it. Councillor McClellan, second, Councillor Gilmore. Any further discussion on that?
Is that language sufficient for the?
Can you just read that quickly again? Just the last part that Will asked.
Okay, Councillor McClellan asked that I read the part that the CAO added again, and so that is, and that any person having pre-authorized payments scheduled to occur prior to April 30th contact the township to make arrangements to take advantage of the deferral.
Okay, so we lost the part where
The bank.
where if you can make your payment, make it on time, right?
Yeah.
This way this sits, anybody can ask for a deferral, right? We're asking, hey, if you can pay your taxes, pay them. If you have a problem,
And there's, well,
I mean, if it's not a financial burden, pay your taxes, right?
right. I think we have that covered rather well.
Yeah, I just want
Councillor Gilmore, you think we're, any other questions?
It needs to be spelled out clearly, so everybody knows what they have to take the initiative to call.
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
You could argue that it's inferred that we'd like them to pay, but the more you say, the better in some circumstances.
Okay, so everything I've read before, I'm not going to repeat it, but the addition to the resolution is that any members of the public able to pay their taxes in a timely manner be respectfully requested to do so. Okay, any other discussion on that? It's on the floor, mover seconder. I'll call for a recorded vote, and we'll start with Councillor Van Vliet. Opposed?
In favor.
In favor. Councillor Cridlin.
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
And that is passed. Okay, move on to Municipal Act 2019 remuneration.
Mr. Mayor, could we move straight to the bylaw and get the bylaw through right now, just as it falls out of that report?
Sure.
And I do have a motion for that. And I believe a copy of the bylaw was circulated to members of council.
Okay, so this is for the tax deferral. That the bylaw number 17/2020 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 78/2019 to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2020 for the Township of Wainfleet be read and passed this 31st day of March 2020. And it's on the floor.
Mover second.
Mover, Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Any other discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. Councillor McClellan, your vote.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And Councillor Cridlin.
In favor?
Okay, and that is passed. Okay, ASR 10-2020 and remuneration reporting. And Mr. Colassa, would you speak to that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a housekeeping report that's required to be presented to councils every year under the Municipal Act. It basically outlines the remuneration paid to members of council and members of all the township's agencies, boards, and committees in the prior year. Really, as I say, just a very simple housekeeping report. There was one amendment that was made just because we were pulling together everything in sort of some strange circumstances. There were two amounts that were inadvertently omitted from the original report. There is an amended copy that I think is placed before everyone and was emailed hopefully to everyone at home. And it really of no significance. I believe that one mileage amount of $125 was omitted from one of the committee members, and a conference expense of approximately $500 was omitted from another person's report. So that slightly ups things by about $600 between the two members of the public. Other than that, really a standard report, housekeeping, just to be received as information.
Thank you, sir. So the recommendation is that admin staff report ASR 010-2020 respecting Municipal Act 2019 remuneration reporting be received for information. A mover seconder, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor, anybody else? Gilmore. Any discussion on that?
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Van Vliet.
I don't see anything in here for the drainage board. I'm sure that we all get like $50 each or something to be on that board.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will double check and have to investigate that. I believe those are just basic honorariums paid as opposed to actual remuneration or payment for actually attending meetings. That's
Okay.
just all honorarium that's paid, I believe, but we'll confirm that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, opposed or in favor, Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridlin.
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor?
Councillor McLeod,
In favor.
and that is carried. Okay, moving on to our drainage report. I think there's two of them here tonight. Mr. Glassa, would you please provide an overview of that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The first drainage report is simply an update report to members of council, sort of outlining the highlights of the 2019 drainage program and outlining some of the major projects that we have currently scheduled for the 2020 calendar year. Again, drainage is such a significant part of sort of Wainfleet's physical infrastructure. We're flat and we're wet, and the drains help keep things going here in the township. So it's a very critical program that needs to be looked after. And this identifies the current plan for the upcoming year. Once again, it's our intention to pursue this with vigor, but in light of the ongoing and ever-evolving situation that we're dealing with, there may be certain delays that we experience, but it is our hope to carry through with these programs as best we can in the coming year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a mover, please put it on the floor? Councillor McLeod, secretary. Councillor Gilmore, and discussion. Councillor McLeod.
I have one question to you, Mr. Mayor, and this should go to the drainage super, but it'll go to Will. Reading the report, they refer from kilometers to feet. Either make it metric or imperial, but don't have us going back and forth.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll make that correction and adjustment going forward. Thank you.
It probably should be measured.
Yeah, I don't care what it is, one or the other.
Okay, any other discussion, comments? Councillor Craig?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Again, just to reiterate, I did have a question about the drainage report not having any financial components mentioned. And just to remind again the public that this, well, I don't want to remind them, Will, please use your words, but that this is kind of a loop. This is a little bit like maybe the building department, where the department ends up being whole at the end of the year, whatever the financial component is of it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Critten's correct. A lot of the drainage work that is done is work that is billed to individual drains and the people who actually receive benefit from having those drains, so that the general taxpayer isn't burdened, if you will, with having to fund or finance the entire drainage operation, where the benefit is accruing to specific individuals. Exactly right.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no further discussion on this report, I'll look for the voting on it, please. Councillor Craig.
In favor.
Councillor, can I read the that report, DSR 003-2020 regarding Township's 2019-2020 drainage program update be received, and that the municipal drain program be approved. Sorry about that. Councillor Cridland?
Thank you, I agree.
Thank you. Councillor Van Vliet?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councillor McCullough?
In favor.
And that's carried. Okay, moving on to drainage staff report 004-2020, agreement of share of assessment. And again, we'll look to our CAO to speak to that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is sort of a last minute walk-on that we were able to finally get all the information together, and we wanted to get it in front of council as soon as we could in light of the, again, situation that we're facing in the real world. Basically, back in December, there was a severance or a consent granted to a property, which had the effect of splitting it in half, or splitting it into two pieces. As that original parcel is located on a municipal drain, and as a result of the land split, the assessments to the drain had to be allocated between the two properties with the consent of the owner and the consent of the township in accordance with the Drainage Act. So we do have a assessment agreement that's been prepared. It's been signed off by the property owner to split the assessment over the two new parcels. And this is before you today to get your authorization to execute the agreement and allow for future drainage assessments to be split appropriately between the two properties.
Okay, so that report, that drainage staff report, DSR 004-2020, respecting agreement on share of assessment 1184-505 Ontario Limited, be received, and that the agreement on share of assessment attached to DSR 004-2020 as Appendix A be approved. A mover, seconder for that, Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. And any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor Cridlin,
In favor?
Councillor McClellan,
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore,
Favor.
and that is carried. Okay, moving on to a memo from our fire chief. The memorandum, emergency management coordinator township response to COVID-19. Mr. Colassa, please speak to that one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is just a sort of update report that's being presented to council demonstrating the township's response to the COVID-19 crisis that we're currently experiencing. It reflects sort of the initial stages of the situation from our initial EOC activation, Emergency Operations Center activation back on March 13th, through to some of the closures that we initiated on the March 14th. Well, we did a few on the 13th, a few on the 14th, and all the activities up until this past Friday, March 26th, when the agenda was published. Since this time, the report was prepared. There have been further developments, which will be summarized in the next report that comes before you. But in the meantime, what we're doing is trying to produce daily reports, or as close to daily as we can, depending on the business cycle and the amount of work that we have flowing through us. And we post those to a new page that we've created on our website. If you go to the township's website at wainfleet.ca, at the very top front dead center, you'll see a big red bar with a link to our COVID-19 page, and all the most up-to-date information that we have is posted there. And for example, a lot of the stuff that you did at the meeting today, we'll be posting there tomorrow to update members of the public about what's going on. So this is just a sort of historical overview of what's happened to date. And as I say, there's more going on every day.
Okay, so request that the memorandum from the fire chief respecting township response to COVID-19 be received for information. The mover and seconder on that, Councillor Cridlin, your hand was up, and Councillor Van Vliet. Thank you. Any further discussion? And it is important to note to the public as well that our webpage, the township webpage, is the source of information. Other things on Facebook or Instagram is not the official, all-inclusive amount of information. So it's really important. Everything you need to know, all the links to the province, to Canada, everything is in there on our COVID page. Our staff have done an excellent job, a really good job of keeping that updated with all the new information. And so if you want to go somewhere to learn what we are doing, that's where to go. It has links to the region and the province. So please refer to that page. That is the main page. Any discussion? Is your hand up, Councillor Cridlin?
Well, again, you just covered it off. I hadn't heard, we haven't had a chance to say thank you to staff yet in this meeting, and this would just be another chance. Thank everybody working on this so hard.
Yeah, staff has done a great job, and we're working half from home, half from here, and then switching around. It's going really well, actually. I'm quite impressed. And the dedication by the staff is excellent. So, okay, I'll call for a vote on that. If the discussion is done, Councillor Gilmore in favor, Councillor McClellan
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Okay, and that is carried. Public Works Report 001-2020. Equipment rental rates for 2020, and Mr. Colassa, would you speak to that one as well, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This report, as well as the next two that come immediately after it, are housekeeping reports that we bring to council every spring. And the purpose of this first report is to advise that we've gone to the market to see what sort of rates that we can get with respect to any sort of incidental equipment rentals that we may require over the course of the year. So for example, if we require a specialized piece of equipment in order to do some ditching, or if one of our vehicles breaks down and we need to borrow, or we need additional support with respect to a tandem dump truck, anything along those lines, we go to market at the beginning of the year. We ask for firms to bid with sort of fixed rates over the course of the year. We present all of those, and we go with the lowest one if we need that piece of equipment. So at this time, what we're doing is presenting this to you for information and requesting that you endorse the bids as outlined in the quotation.
Okay, so the motion that Public Works Staff Report PWSR 001-2020 respecting equipment rental rates 2020 be received for information. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. Okay, discussion? Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll go to the vote. Opposed or in favor? Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore. And that is carried. Okay, and the next one is virtually the same. And again, we'll look to Mr. Colassa to briefly speak to that one.
Through you, just to keep it brief, Mr. Mayor, it is exactly the same. This is this tender, though, instead of equipment rentals where required, this is in case we need any electrical services prepared or provided to the township that we're not able to accommodate internally, and we have to get an external electrician to come in and do some work for us. Again, we have two bids, and it would be our intention to go with the lowest one as outlined in the report.
Thank you. So motion that Public Works Staff Report 002-2020 respecting results of request for quotation for electrical services for 2020-2022 be received. And that council authorize staff to select Cornell Feenstra Electric Limited as the preferred vendor for electrical services for 2020-2022. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. And any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Recorded vote. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And that is carried. Okay, this is memorandum from the manager of operations, result for request for quotation for plumbing and mechanical services for 2020-2022. Mr. Colassa, provide a brief on that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, same as the other two, we went to market to see if we could get a sort of on-call plumbing and mechanical services that deals with HVAC and all the other stuff. Unfortunately, the purpose of this report is to advise that we did not get any qualified bids back. So what that means is that in the event that we do need a plumber or mechanical work done at a future date, we will need to go to market or try to find someone who can help us at that time instead of sort of having a pre-approved vendor list to pick from.
Thank you. So, motion that memorandum from operations supervisor respecting results of request for quotation for plumbing and mechanical services for 2020-2022 be received for information. Mover and seconder to have that on the floor, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. Thank you. And discussion. Okay, seeing Councillor Cridlin. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. William, just double checking again. Is this another opportunity where we, ask those 4 other municipalities what they do, to be able to have something where, you're not caught having to do this extra step? So with all 5 municipalities, would there be somebody we could put on side or put on this kind of a program with us, or has that been tried and failed probably? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly try, and we will try again. One of the things, especially with plumbers, for example, is that a lot of municipalities have water and sewer works, waterworks within their municipality, and a lot of them have plumbers on staff so that they can handle in downtime some of the sort of work that comes along that needs to be addressed. Because we don't have water sewer systems here, we don't have that kind of capacity, but we will by all means reach out to other municipalities to see if there's any potential to go that way. In the alternative, it may be a matter of opening the phone book, calling 3 people each time, getting the best price, and getting somebody in that way. So we'll do what we can to get the best price we can for the job that we have at hand, if a job arises.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, by vote yea or nay. Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor Cridlin,
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan,
In favor.
and that is carried. Okay, correspondence, I don't have in front of me, we're looking to our CAO to speak to it. Yeah. And it's regarding a memo from the fire chief.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually it's on behalf of the Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association. So this is a new piece of correspondence that just came in, and the Wainfleet Firefighters Association, in conjunction with the township and our EOC operation, are looking at mobilizing a community support team to assist those citizens in Wainfleet who are having difficulty during this period of isolation and pandemic. And what we will be doing is making arrangements for some collection of foods or collection of supplies that people might need, and responding to requests that we might get from the community for assistance that come in. This is going to be handled through the Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association, as I said, in conjunction with the Township Fire Department. Part of that outreach that was being done in the preparation of this was reaching out to Port Cares, who is our local food bank, if you will. They're our supplier or supporter of Wainfleet, and there are a number of citizens and residents within the township that are able to take advantage of the Port Cares to assist them through times when they're tough. As part of the outreach, the Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association has decided and has offered a donation of $500 to Port Cares, which is a very nice way to help us give back to them as Port Cares gives back to our community. One of the things that's being proposed in this correspondence is that the township consider making a donation likewise to Port Cares, so that there's sufficient funds in their banks to be able to help residents in Wainfleet that might need assistance as well. Again, we're still doing the community support team initiative here locally, but this is one way of potentially the township providing some support or gaining some supplies to help support those people in Wainfleet as well. So what's being proposed or requested for consideration by council is the $500 donation to Port Cares to assist with Wainfleet residents that might require assistance during the pandemic isolation situation.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is that correspondence number 91/2020 from the Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association be received, and that approve the request to match the donation by the Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association to Port Cares in the amount of $500. Have a mover and seconder to put that on the floor, please. Councilor McClellan and Councilor Gilmore, and discussion. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. I've talked to one member and called another. That'll sort of let you know who those people are. But at any rate, I think that, yeah, we need to do this. And I would recommend that we do it as a council proper person in some manner. And maybe that number, maybe more than that. But I think that we tell the chief it'll get looked after one way or another, and that in the next day or two, we will sort it out with the administration.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Councilor McClellan?
I fully agree with Councilor Gilmore. I was gonna ask what we had left over in the budget, but I would rather do this personally and get it done, and then we're done.
Councilor Van Vliet or Cridlin, do you have any comments?
Oh, I agree with Terry. I spoke to him earlier, so yeah, I agree with him on this one.
Okay, Councilor Cridlin?
I'm just getting off my mute button. Thank you, through you, Mayor. First of all, I really want to commend the volunteer firefighters. So for them to reach into their fund, their organization, and step up in such a really big way, standing alone with this, they're to be commended. So when I read it, I sort of took it as like a team challenge. It didn't even occur to me that this would be a township thing. You know, obviously in the spirit of supporting the community, I like what Councilor Gilmore has offered, that we'll just receive it, I think, right now, and certainly absolutely congratulate them with initiating this kind of effort in our township. I think we'll see lots more ways that people are going to contribute how they can. So I do see this sort of as a personal level as well. But I don't want to undermine anything on the positive side that this is coming from a volunteer organization already. So if we can make the motion to receive it, and with our endorsement, then we can get back to them personally.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, recorded vote. Councilor Gilmore?
In favor?
Councilor McClellan?
In favor.
Councilor Cridlin?
In favor, what's the motion again?
Just to receive the report.
Thank you. Thank you, in favor.
Okay, and Councilor Van Vliet?
In favor.
And that is carried. Any other business?
I have one question.
Okay, Councilor McClellan has a question.
This would be to Richard, but maybe you can pass it on. So, school's closed, kids are bored. I've driven up and down Raffon Road and some of the other roads that connect. The people are using the Good Harry Trail to walk, and they have to get out there. You go stir crazy, so there's no problem with that. But what I do see is there's a ton of quads running up and down, and they're dragging mud, because they go around the little gates and they're dragging mud. If we don't have concrete blocks, can we get rocks or a big old tree stump or something to block those? And maybe one guy should drive around and just check where they're needed and then get it done. Because, yeah, you get out of your house, you shouldn't have to walk on 200 feet of mud because the quads have gone down, right?
Okay, that's something that I'll ask the CAO to bring up with Richard at next business day. Have a look at that and address that. I believe today, was it today or yesterday, the province closed all trails. Was that today? Gord Harry Trail is NPCA and it's closed anyways.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the province did make an announcement last night, which took effect immediately, regarding the closure of facilities that have amenities for various recreational purposes, places where people congregate. I think, as part of our EOC, identified the Gord Herring Trail as a potential problem area as to whether it's open, whether it's closed. And we have reached out to NPCA to find out the status, because NPCA has in fact closed all of their conservation authority area, their conservation parks. So we're following up with them regarding the Gord Herring Trail, and we will be looking into the issue that Councillor McClellan just raised about access by motorized vehicles, which are not permitted on those trails in any circumstances whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. So we'll bring that up with our office manager. Okay, so there are no bylaws this evening on the agenda. Notices of motion. Okay, there's no notices of motion. We're not having a closed meeting this evening. Closed session items listed on the agenda are being deferred to an upcoming meeting. So bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our council meeting this evening, that bylaw number 18/2020 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council of the corporation of the Township of Wainfleet at its meeting held March 11th, 16th, and 31, 2020. And we have a mover seconder for that, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, recorded vote. And Councillor McClellan.
Favor.
Councillor Gilmore. Favor. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And Councillor Criddle.
In favor.
Okay, so that is carried. If there's no reason we shouldn't be adjourned, any issues, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much. That went rather well.